Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson, we're going to start working on some color mapping. And one of the most popular questions I get when it comes to this stage, because we just finished creating our color mixing, is I'm using acrylics. I can't mix all these colors without them drying out, along that line. So this big puppy here, this one here, people are thinking they have to mix all these colors before they have to start painting. No, this was created basically as your reference point. And there's going to be a lesson on how to strip down your palette, and that's going to be in the studio. So you'll be able to just create just a few colors and just work from that. And that's what I'm working from today. So you'll have a follow-up lesson on that. So if we go down to the table, and you can see I've got my big chart here, and then what I stripped down the mixes. So basically what I did was just yellow oxide, the first mixture here. I didn't use any of the raw sienna mixtures. That's up to you. I already have my photograph picked, so I know where the colors are leaning. So I've got my titanium white, yellow oxide, naphtol red light, which is here. My titanium white with yellow oxide here. Then I've got my titanium white, yellow ochre, and yellow oxide and burnt sienna here. Raw umber and titanium white, yellow oxide, carbon black, titanium white, permanent alizarin crimson with a little bit of sap green lightened with Hansa yellow medium, and this is sap green with a little bit of permanent alizarin crimson lightened with Hansa yellow medium, and then these are the browns. So raw umber, yellow oxide, raw umber, burnt sienna yellow, blah blah blah, raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, and then white. What about all these colors? Well, we already know if we have this chart, we find a color that we need. All we got to do is say, okay, well, I'm looking here and I need this. So I know that it's titanium white with yellow oxide, which is added white. So I pull this out, mix a bit of white, boom, done. That's one of the things with acrylics. You have to be able to create it this way to keep the paints wet. In oils, you can pre-mix everything if you want. That you can do, because the oils will take much longer to dry. But in saying that, you have to remember that a lot of the earth tones dry really, really fast, so you may have to add some medium to it to extend the drying time, which means the oils will become a little bit thinner, more transparent. But this way here, and as I have a bottle and I can just mist it, you know, every 15 minutes or so. When I see a skin developing, I could add extender to this, but then the paints will become more transparent. I want to try to use them right now like this. The one problem I had with this palette was, though, is mixing everything on here is that the paper towel keeps pulling up. So you can mix it on a separate palette, then just take it and then put it there. If you have a palette which has wells, that might be easier for you. You'll find a way to make it work. I am experimenting with another method to see if that works, and I'll post that for sure. So the portrait colors here, I already know that I'm not going to use a lot of these, but just to show you, stripped down. Then on here, I have my sap green, and then I introduced ultramarine blue, permanent alizarin crimson, napthol red light, Hansa yellow medium, yellow oxide, burnt sienna, raw umber, and carbon black. So other than, you know, the ultramarine blue, these colors are already all in here. I introduced ultramarine blue because in the photograph we're going to be looking at, that there is blue in here. Okay, what I forgot to put out, though, is I forgot to put out my phthalo blue. So thinking, because the eyes are a blue that lean towards green. So in thinking that, how big does this palette have to be? This palette here that I have, let's see if I can show it to you on the camera. It's a Masterson Stay Wet palette, and then basically I stripped everything out of it, and I put gray palette paper underneath and put a sheet of glass on top, and that's what I've been using for years. On camera, that's the problem, is you've got those lights. But with this here, you can put a cover on. You can use a butcher tray, anything. It doesn't matter. As long as it's non-porous, it doesn't matter. And butcher tray actually might be a good way to go, because you can buy them, I think, almost anywhere, but you won't be able to gray it down. I like working with the gray palette, because when we start painting, in a practical sense, the painting will not be white. The canvas will be toned. For our mapping, though, we're working on white. And then I would typically have the portrait colors on one side, then my extended palette. Yeah, so I've got color all the way around, and so that's how. So typically, I would have, you know, my colors that lean both ways. So my two blues, my two reds, my two yellows, and then all the neutrals. In here though, I didn't add Hansa Yellow Light because I know that I know right now I'm not going to need it. And I didn't put my phthalo blue, which I should have. So the extended palette would go right over. You can't even see that. My extended palette would go along here. Then my portrait colors go along here. All right, so check out the follow-up video on stripping down your palette. That'll make so much more sense on how I did this. But right now it's for the mapping exercise. So you need your chart. That's whatever chart you created for the paints that you have. So I'm using the one with Traditions because that's typically what I use for portraits. And you need a photograph. So I'm going to link up the photograph. And this is the one I found because it was pretty simple. Dark background. We have some blues, some pinks, and a relatively even skin tone. Not the best photograph when it comes to composition, but I'm looking at the expression because composition, we can play with that. But I like the idea of the contrast here, and you know, the gingham. I think he's in a stroller or is he in a chair? I'm not even sure where this baby, if it's a boy or a girl, I don't know. But it's more the expression of the eyes. That's what I'm looking at. Okay, so what you want to do is you take the photograph, you throw it into Snapseed or Aviary, and you can play with the composition there. Rule of thirds typically, because right now this is centered. So if I can't even do it in this one. So I'm thinking ideally I'm going to make this more black and then crop him or her right there to make it more on the one side. But you can even make it a full center if you want to make something big. But it doesn't even matter for this because we're just mapping the color. So we've got our chart, and what we're going to do is, to get started, get a couple of pieces of cardstock. And what you want to do is you want to have them, and then reach. You want to cut them into small pieces. Now this is a good idea if you have scrap paper, printer paper. Let's say you printed something and it ends up being garbage, but you don't want the side of the paper that has the text on it. You want just the plain white stuff, because once the paper gets wet, the text will show through. Beige paper, nope, we want white. So I'm cutting mine into strips, and I'll just put that aside. And then what we're going to do, as you're learning, you're not so much going to put all the mapping pieces here. You're going to start here first, and then you're going to compare. So this is where we're going to start doing our analyzing, comparison, and adjusting. So we have our 2 buckets, and I know this is a long opening, but it's important that you have the setup right. The setup is the longest. So on the side here, I've got my 2 buckets, blot the brush, rinse in bucket number 1, blot the brush, rinse in bucket number 2. And it's just a round brush because we're just doing mapping. So what we're going to do, and if you want to print this, that's fine. Well, let's start first with the background. So we take a look at the background, and we go to our palette and say, okay, what's the closest color on the palette? And remember, you could have your extended palette here. And I'm looking at this. The first thing I see here, I have black. Do I want to use pure black? Heck no. No way. Because if you use pure black, it's flat, it's blah. But what do I want to do? You can make a chromatic black, which might be really nice. Well, what's chromatic black? Do you want to use blue that leans towards green or blue that leans towards violet? That's up to you. It's just a background. So I'm thinking, I'm looking at this, and I'm thinking, well, on the color wheel, if the face is more of a yellowish color, right? So the face is more of a yellowish skin tone. So if we think if it's a yellowish skin tone here, well, what if we made our chromatic black with a little bit of the ultramarine blue because it's opposite on the color wheel? That might make a nice bit of contrast, right? You could also use phthalo blue that leans towards green. That's really intense. So let's try first with just by using a bluish black. You could take black and add blue to it, or take blue with burnt sienna. Either way, both black and burnt sienna are opaque. It's up to you. So let's try both. So we're going to take black and then a little bit of ultramarine blue right here. Now I want to show you something. See that color on the palette? The minute I add it to white, look how dark that is. But it's a lot more neutral on here. comparing this, that looks really, really dark, but when you go onto here, look at the contrast here. If you had gray palette paper and I put my swatches, it would be a lot more accurate to match, but let's keep it simple. So we're just going to put our color here. That looks all right. Looks fine. What about if we modeled it a little bit with a bit of white? So let's just take a little bit of white. Put that in there. And we create a bit of a model. So thinking that when we put the background, I like that better. Not so black, but adding a little bit of interest in there. Okay, well, I like that. So that's going to be one of our options. So we're going to put that right here. And I'm actually going to put it down exactly how it's on the palette. A modeled background. That's what I'm thinking. You know what's missing? Light pen. Notes. So thinking carbon black, ultramarine blue, titanium white, and then modeled. Okay. So that's fine. Paper towel. The first couple ones that we're going to do here, they are going to be longer because I have to explain the process. Okay. But as we go through, it'll be a lot easier. So that's with carbon black, ultramarine blue, titanium white. Well, what if, and this is all about you're learning to analyze. That's all this is. Well, what if we took ultramarine blue and then, you know, neutralize it with a bit of burnt sienna. You could always use burnt umber if you want. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. Okay, grab our photo. You can see my light in here. See, this is why. Oh, that's the overhead light. Let's put her here. That's a bit warm because we're using a little, burnt sienna in there. Well, what if we put a little bit of white in there? Model that. Oh, this is really gray. This is really gray, so that's not quite enough blue. It's a bit light now, so let's put a bit more brown in there. Let's add, it was a bit too much white. That's nice. So, and I can go here. And because we added a bit more blue, it's a bit transparent, but then we think, okay, well, let's let it dry. This is a bit grayer. So let's let that dry. And, whoops, I almost dropped that on my tablet. I'm gonna make a note. So this is, and when I make my little legend for chromatic black, carbon black, CB is what I usually use for chromatic black, but because we use more carbon black in this, I'm gonna just write ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and titanium white, and also will be modeled. Okay. Yep, got paint on the tablet. And put that aside, so we don't really need those. So having the swatches, and you can compare, but keeping in mind that the paint will dry darker. So as the paint dries, that's where you're gonna notice, but because it's white, or black, you're not gonna see the difference here? The difference between this and this. So this is a little bit lighter with a little bit bluer, and that's really black. Although this is black, I don't want it that black. You're the artist. You can choose to do whatever you want. Okay? What do you want to map next? You want to work on the face? Work on the face. I'm not going to worry about this here. You can't. By doing the mapping exercise, you can. But I don't know if I really want that in the photograph. If I want that, or if I want to focus on that. I'm liking the contrast there. This is really busy, but depending if you're doing a commission, if the parent says, this is what I want, then of course you got to put it in. But because we're just doing the mapping, I'm choosing not to put that in because my photograph will be primarily that, not such a busy background. Let's work on, let's work on the face. So we got a lot of places that we have to map. So you've got the highlight here, you got some highlights here, you've got some mid-tones here, and you've got some shadow here. And you're gonna do the same thing. So first thing we're gonna do, let's map this area right here. What's the closest color that I see on the palette? Thinking this one right here. but it's a little bit yellow, so I'm gonna thinking it's this one here. That's a bit too orange, so it's probably gonna be in between because this has got burnt sienna in it. So I'm gonna think, okay, well, I'm liking that. Obviously, way too dark. Look at your chart. This is where you can, and this is where having the photograph would be handy. I can go like this, and I can stop flipping around, and I can go like this, and I can think, here we go, here we go, here we go. The mixture is something that I didn't put on the palette, raw sienna. Well, then I can always just mix it up. It's no big deal. My fault for not putting the extended palette out. That I should have done. So if I didn't put the color out, what do? I just make it. So I'm thinking right there, I'm liking this one, and I'm liking, let me think. See, when I'm looking at it in real life here, it looks one way. I'm looking at it in the monitor, completely different. So what you're gonna do, look at this. Look in front of you. So how I'm looking at the monitor, that's why you see my eyes going here. I shouldn't be doing that because the colors are different. So looking at this here, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking this one right here. So I have to get out some raw sienna. So raw sienna will go right, whoops, right there. So that mixture here is just titanium white raw sienna. So that's easy enough. And a speck of raw sienna. So let's just map that out. Eventually you are not going to have to do this. This is just to teach you how to map. Then we go and thinking it's got to dry a little bit darker. Thinking, okay, that's a little bit, ooh, that's really dark. That's really dark. So let's put that a little bit in there. Oh, what did I do? I just went the exact opposite way. That white. Oh, God. There we go. By comparing the chart to this, that's not as yellow. She looks, again, I'm looking at the monitor. Looking at the monitor, her skin looks blue. Looking here, her skin looks yellow. I can't rely on that monitor. So when you're looking at this through whatever device you're using and you're going, why are you doing it this way? That's not what it looks like. You're looking at it through a monitor as well. So you get the photograph and you do the exercise in front of you. Just follow my guidelines, but work on it, what's in front of you. Because what do we say about lighting where you're working? The lighting as you're working in will affect the colors that you're painting in. If you're looking at something on the monitor, monitors are all calibrated differently. You got to work with what's in front of you. Okay? What's in front of me? This is the color. So I'm going to go right here. Remember, we're just mapping. This is just an exercise to get us started. So this is titanium white, raw sienna, and this is going to be the highlight. This is the background. And you know how I used to do this? On a photograph. I used to do that on a photograph. So that's probably going to darken a little bit. All right. And just below is a little bit more yellow. I'm thinking I could use this here. This one right here. Actually, just take this one here. Oh, God, there's so much glare. Squinting my eyes. Yeah. Just the existing mixture with just a speck more. Just a speck more. Oh, I like that. I like that even better. So that is the highlight mix. And then this one here is as we're getting to the midtones. So this is just a little plus raw sienna. And then this is the forehead. And this is the forehead between eyes. If you want to, you can print the photograph and then you can actually put the swatches right on the photograph. Just be careful doing that because you're going to have splotches everywhere and it's going to be kind of messy. Again, you're not going to have to worry about documenting it this way. All we're going to do is as we actually get to painting the portrait, we're going to be doing this. We're doing this. So I'm thinking, okay, so now we have that. So what about over here? This looks a little bit redder. I'm talking this right here. Stop looking at the monitor, Gisele. Look at it here. Yeah. You may even get some, if you get people saying, oh, can you paint my whatever? I don't have, and then just email you a picture. You can work with that as well. That's looking at this. Okay, so what's the first color we see on the palette looks the same? Wait a minute. Why are we doing it the hard way? Take our chart. So we take our chart and we look. Huh, interesting. Another raw sienna mix. I'm thinking, squint your eyes. Yep, this one right here. So, I really foobarred this one, didn't I? This is why it's nice if you have your extended palette all set up. So, how do we make that? Well, titanium white, raw sienna, naphtol red light, and we're down to this value right here. Simple, right? Titanium white, yellow oxide. This will also help you get practice on mixing the colors on the fly. A little bit of naphtol red light. Wrong. Not yellow oxide. Raw sienna. Oops. I'm trying to work fast. Where are we? And a lot more white. There we go. I had way too much red in there. Now I was looking at her forehead. That's reddish. You can even take the brush, go here. Oh, not enough red. So maybe I was okay. Yeah, it's a lot more of this color. See, deceiving, right? Take our swatch. Oh God, that looks so bright. Let me come here. So we're mapping this part right here. Squint the eyes. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not even, I got a feeling this little baby was crying. Squint the eyes. A little bit more red. Oh, that's too much. Is it? That's actually pretty good. Maybe a bit of a lighter value. There we go. Just that one little spot right in there. So you take your color, you look at your color first. What's the closest color? Then you ask yourself those questions. Is it lighter or darker? Is it more dull or more intense? And we've already solved the problem of where it leans on the color wheel because primarily we've already pre-mixed our colors. But you say, okay, does the color lean more towards yellow? Does the color lean more towards blue? So you can ask yourself those questions. And this one here, the color leans more towards the reddish, leans a little bit more towards blue. Well, I don't want to make a blue, but if it's too intense, we can dull it down. I like to basically dull it down by just using a neutralizing color. And for this, we can use either raw umber, you can use black, you can even use one of these here. Now remember, this is a pinky tone, so a neutralizing color opposite of red is green. You could use one of the greens. I'm thinking I'm just going to use the raw umber with a little bit of white in here. And this, again, you can even make that on the fly. Just a speck of that. Oh, and that did it. A bit much. Let's go right in between. There we go. Right there. Stop looking at the monitor, Gisele. So we're going to put this one here. Just this exercise. And this exercise you can do anytime. So, oh, good Lord, what did I do? So it was titanium white, raw sienna, naphtol red light, and I'm going to put a letter T, touch of raw umber. And this is going to be above eyebrow. Again, you're not going to have to do this all the time, okay? Well, that's close to what's here too, but this one here looks like it's a little bit more violet. So it could be reflective light. Could we take the same color and just make it a little bit more violet? Yeah, we probably could, because we're already working with Napthol red light. We could take, I'm not going to take Alizarin crimson. I'm going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue right into that existing mixture. Let's see what we get with that one. No, not even close. So let's see if there's something else around here. The hair is pretty close on the hair. All right. Well, I think it's a little harder doing this on the tablet. You know what else I didn't do? In my brush. Well, if we want to make that a little bit more violet, we don't want to make it purple, what can we do? Well, the closest color that we see on the pre-mixed colors was still that flesh tone. But the violet that's in here, I don't know if this is photoshopped, but that's not our problem. We got to work with this here. So thinking, well, I already know that I can make a violet with alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. Want to dull it down with burnt sienna. Let's check that color first. Oh boy, was I ever cheaped? I cheaped out with that paint. Did I ever cheap out with that paint? Okay, let's add a little bit of white to that. A little bit more blue because it leans more towards the blue. And I'll just mix it right on here. So that color is way too dark. Leans the right way on the color wheel. Oh yeah, I think I got that right. Keeping in mind it dries darker. Yeah, I got that right there. Right in there. And even here. So yeah, that's bang on. Alrighty, so I'm going to put that here. So in mapping all these colors, does that mean that we're stuck with it? No, because they dry darker, you're going to need to adjust as you go. So this is ultramarine blue, permanent alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, and titanium white. And this is the inner eye left, and outside eye right. You're going to still need to adjust these. So this is the process of what color. Find the closest thing, put it down. Ask yourself the question, is it lighter or darker, duller or more intense, and where does it lean on the color wheel? Okay, so what's next? Well, the eyes. I gotta do the eyes. Look at the eyes. They are the most beautiful blue, but the blue looks like a blue-gray. Looks like a blue-gray. And looking at it this way, yeah, I can really tell that color. See, in the monitor, it looks blue-violet. Here, it looks blue-green. So, yeah. Instead of bringing out phthalo blue, could we... Oh, I got paint on there. Instead of bringing out phthalo blue, could we take ultramarine blue and add sap green? What would happen? Let's try. Ultramarine blue, speck of sap green. Will that work? Stop being so cheap with the paint. Ultramarine blue and sap green. So I lightened it up to see the true underlying color. I could use that with a lot more white right inside here. That's bang on right to there. Actually, what I should do is just take it this way. You put the color right beside to see where it works. So I'm going to put this into 2 spots, and then clean the brush. So you get the idea how we're doing this, right? So I put the color, the closest color I saw was basically ultramarine blue. Where's it leaning in the color wheel? Well, it leads more towards green. Did I really want to put phthalo blue out right now? I could. Let's pretend I don't have it. Add a touch of sap green to it. Lighter or darker? The outside is dark, so I could go back. And use it more pure. There we go. So that's it, more pure. Also super transparent because of ultramarine blue and sap green are transparent. So 2 layers when painting the eye, or I could take a speck of black. Ooh, that may be too much. You know what other color would work for that? Prussian blue. There we go. So that's for the ring. Then you can go inside the eye, a little bit lighter. Then the pupil is black, so I'm not going to worry about that. So yeah, those colors are really nice. And when working with that, so I'm going to put like this, just the eye. And it's ultramarine blue, sap green, and that's it. The titanium white. The alternative, I could put a note, phthalo blue. With the phthalo blue, you would need such a small amount, so you have to be very careful that you don't overdo it. All right. What else? Oh, the eyebrows. Let's knock this down a bit. When I look at the thing with the eyebrows, closest color I see on the palette is the raw umber with white on the outside, but I see as it comes in, it becomes a little bit warmer. I could turn around and say, well, what am I looking at? It'll be so much easier when I do the stripping down lesson. Oh, the alizarin crimson and the green, this mixture right there. So if I took the raw umber with titanium white, and as I come in, I can warm it up with that alizarin crimson mixture. Let's try that. So we're going to start off with this one here. Okay, now the eyebrows are just like flecks of lines. So although you can do that and compare that, and that's fine, I'm looking at it more from this standpoint. So that's the closest color for one part of the eyebrows, and we look at it here, and I'm looking here. Yeah, that color is pretty good. That color's pretty good. Again, we're going to be adjusting as we actually do the painting. Not this painting, this is just a mapping lesson, but in a practical painting, you're going to be actually doing a lot more analyzing. And keep in mind, give yourself a break. It takes years and years and years to build up to a style of portrait painting you want to do. Start simple, okay? Start simple. Learn first how to read the color, and then we do our mapping. So that's that. Well, as I go over, I'm going to warm that up a speck on my brush. This is drying out. Let's mist this a little bit. Oops, I just got water in my coffee, or my tea, I should say. My green tea, which isn't green anymore. Always taking from the side. Yeah, I can see that being much warmer. Yeah, I like that. Right there. Right there. I like that. If I want to lighten it a little bit, if I take white and lighten it, I think I want to lighten it with a speck of yellow oxide. Let's try that. There we go. So this is just getting all, and you wouldn't need to map it this much. This is more for a lesson. Yeah, right in there. Right inside here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'll make a little bit more paint there. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna put this here. And this is such a small amount when actually, if you're actually to paint this, you wouldn't need this much paint. So, eyebrow. You would repeat the same thing for the other side. Because in here, like if you look at this, that it's a lot more yellow here. This is a lot more violet inside here, a lot more yellow here. And the physical eye, this eye here is a lot darker. This eye is a lot brighter. So you could do the mapping on both sides. Really, if you just do one side, then you can adjust as you go, as you work on the painting, you'll be fine. So looking at this, almost white. It looks like it has a little bit of blue in it. So on this one here, stop looking at the monitor. Again, the titanium white with the raw umber, so we're okay on that. Inside the nose is just a really dark, dark, dark. We're not going to use black. And for that, I'm looking at the palette, and I'm thinking the raw umber burnt sienna, this one right here. But it's a shadow, so I'm thinking that with a little bit of the green. Paper towel on the floor. So all you're doing is your color matching. That's all you're doing. Now it is challenging, so again, give yourself a break. So I'm looking at this, and what do I see? Okay, well, the color's not dark enough. Could I add black to it? Yep. But if I look on the palette, I see that it's green because this color here is too warm. I actually should have chose this one. So let me just take a little bit of the green in there, which will cool it off. It's not so, because I took the burnt sienna here, the burnt sienna. Now I'm comparing on the photograph to the palette. I need to make it a little bit darker. I'm going to add a speck of black. The black is really strong. Oh, okay. Squint my eyes. Not quite dark, not quite dark enough. Acrylics dry darker. I'm going to stick with this color. Thinking now I should just use a printed photograph. I'm waiting to drop the tablet. Avoid using pure black. So this is raw umber. I'm gonna write it down. Raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, the mixture, and I should have chose raw umber and yellow oxide, but I'm gonna write down exactly what I did, and then I added the sap green mixture. I added the greenish, and then plus carbon black. Okay, that takes care of that. What else are we? Oh, let's get this done. We have some reflective light here. The pink from the blanket, I think. Is it a blanket? No, a hoodie. It looks like a little hoodie. Is reflecting. Oh, this might probably be a little girl. Is reflecting onto her face. So Nothing comes close except this one right here, the titanium white and raw sienna and naphtol red light. That's the closest, but it's still really warm. So you know what? We're gonna have to make something from scratch. We take a look at the palette. What's the closest color that I see? This one right here. That's the closest color. There's a bit of pink in there, so if we think of pink, I automatically think of alizarin crimson. So this, because this is reflective light, I got paint all over the back of my tablet. It's reflective light, so let's take white, a little bit of alizarin crimson. Bang, it's perfect. So I look at this. Yep. Going cheap with the paint again. When I say cheap with the paint, I'm not making enough. Thinking that, oh yeah. So it's a little bit intense. So what do we do to knock it down? This is where you would look at your color wheel. Alizarin crimson sits here. Opposite to red is green. So we already know that alizarin crimson and phthalo green make a phenomenal chromatic black. Phthalo green blue and phthalo green yellow, too intense. I'm going to stick with the sap green, which, by the way, is not on my, that belongs right about here. I didn't put it on there. So I'm going to go with a little bit of sap green, a speck. And then just put that in. May have been too much. I'm going to put it right beside. Oh yeah, look at the difference. No, too much. So what do? You can go back into a little bit more alizarin crimson. This is because I'm just too flippin' cheap with the paint. There we go. There we are. Okay, I've got the right color and I've got the right intensity. It's a little bit dark. Lighten it with a little bit of white. Squint the eyes. Yeah. Oh, that's perfect right in here. That's perfect right in there. All right, so I'm gonna put that. Oh, let's pop that right here. Again, the acrylics are going to dry darker, so it's so easy because you can just make up another mix and just lighten it. So this is the reflected cheek color, and I did that with titanium white, alizarin crimson, sap green. Yep, that's what I did. And we clean the brush. Okay. What else are we looking at? The ears. The ears, if I look at this, the color for the ears are different colors. This one here is closer to the color of up here, but this one here has a lot more red in it. Take a look at the palette. Where's the ear? Looking. Okay, I like that color. I like that color better. Titanium white, yellow oxide, burnt sienna. So that's the closest color. So that closest color, yellow oxide, this one here, which is a lot lighter than this. This one here, this mixture is way down here. So I can take this and just darken it by adding more yellow oxide and burnt sienna. And looking at the ear, it's a lot more on a reddish side. So let's try first. No, this is not even close. So first of all, not red enough and it's not dark enough. So I'm going to add a little bit of Napthol red light. And look at that. Squinty eye, squinty eye. It's not bad. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna to that. I don't want to add black to darken it because it'll make it dull. And I want to get just close. Yep, that's actually pretty good. Okay, that's right. But now the intent, it's not bright enough. What you can do is then take a little bit of Hansa yellow medium. That'll make it a little bit, so almost like an orange. Now if you want to bring in some orange, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. But you see how much easier it is when you've got this big massive chart. And if you had them in individual swatches, you could take those swatches and put it right next to the photograph. But actually having a printed photograph, you could just put it right next to here. It'd be so much easier. The tablet, although you save money on paper, it's a little bit inconvenient. All right. So you're getting the idea where we're going here, right? And so the cheek color, this one here is the same as this. It's a little bit darker. The hair is, we got a lot to choose from on the hair. Yeah, these colors here. Raw Umber Yellow Oxide. Raw Umber Burnt Sienna and Yellow Oxide. So these two colors here, and then we can brighten it up. Oops. So let's take, oh, she turned. Turn. So let's go with, let's get a warm version. Raw Umber Burnt Sienna Yellow Oxide. And there's a lot of white in that. Yeah. Oh, and as I put it on white, that seems really bright. That seems really bright, which is natural. This is also way too dark. And I need to put a little bit more red in there, so I'm going to put a bit more burnt sienna. There we are. So we get a few different values of that. Perfect. So comparing, don't look at the monitor. Comparing, yep, right there. And this one's a pretty easy one to work with because the hair, you're going to underpaint and then you're going to put the strokes in after the fact. So I'm liking that one. The darker mix. And then another darker mix. And then a much more darker mix, and I'm thinking now just with the raw umber, where the hair is shadowed. Okay. Oh, I missed this one. This is the ear. And I already forgot how to do this. What did we do for the ear? Raw umber. I think it was raw umber, yellow oxide, and burnt sienna, and napthol red light. Oh, I forgot to write it down. And this is the hair. And this is the raw umber, burnt sienna, yellow oxide, plus more burnt sienna. And then I obviously use white to adjust the value. Okay. the blue. The blue is a bright blue, and I'm looking at this blue. Is it a blue that leans more towards violet or more towards green? I'm liking the idea of the violet, leaning towards violet. And we can turn around and just put that there. Go beside. Yeah, that works out well. And just by darkening, we can put a little bit of alizarin crimson. So I'm just going to put that right here. This I'm not too worried about because it's a solid color. And then we can shadow it as we need to. Sleeve. And then the pink from her little sweater. That's an easy one just by using alizarin crimson and white. Can we use some of this mixture? Yeah, we can actually. Yeah, that one's an easy one. Okay, that's the sleeve as well. This is the hoodie. And this is just ultramarine blue, and this is titanium white and alizarin crimson. And the alizarin crimson specifically to what you're using. Yeah, so we're pretty well set here. And then as you go through, like in the photograph, I would eliminate this, whatever this is. I don't know what this is. This is something in the background. I would crop that out. I would not even put that in there. But this is pretty well a good place to start. And, you know, as you start painting, you'll start adjusting and adjusting and adjusting. And with this here, this is just a starting point. The one thing that you're likely going to be stuck on, there we go. So that's a nice set right there. I would replace that blue here with just probably more of this black, but in this tone right here. So I would use this here on this side. So just replace that gingham because it takes, it's a lot of busyness here. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Get rid of that. So cropping wise, not cropping to this size, I would probably do it right like that. So this tone that's right here, I would just put that right in there. All right, so that's going to be your homework assignment, is to take the photograph and just map out different areas of the face. And the bonus assignment is actually to map out the secondary photograph that I'm going to place. Again, this is not a fast exercise. It does take time. Small pieces of paper, and if you want, you can take the small pieces of paper, put your swatches, then just write that there, and then just glue them onto your page. You don't have to do it this way. You can just, because we're basically, you know, doing it twice. I'm doing it this way to keep it with the lesson material, but these little things here are fine, as long as you write down what they are. Alrighty, so you're gonna map out, as you know, map out a good amount on. So you don't have to map out every single value change, but the big areas, like we did the big areas, because let's say there's this part here, which is the area above the eyebrow. Let's say to the left of it's a bit lighter. You're gonna know just to add white to lighten it, so you don't need to map that out. You're just mapping the main parts in there, and then where the skin touches the light skin to the dark skin, where it touches, the colors just get blended in between. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, so you got your assignment to map the colors from this photo based on what you see in front of you, not what I'm telling you the colors I'm using, but it's using your palette, your colors, and using the photograph, what's in front of you in the area that you're painting. And the bonus assignment is mapping the colors in the other picture that I sent you. So this particular assignment is mapping a baby with a light skin tone. So that's this one. As we go through a few of the future lessons, there'll be different color skin tones. But this is a relatively easy one to start with, but don't fret if you get stuck. Ask a question. Feel free to post your picture below with the comments, or even in the private Facebook group, and you know, post your pictures there and we can answer some questions, and then we can go from there. Alrighty, so let's see what you can come up with. Don't go for perfection, you're just starting, and then I will see you in the next lesson. Until then, stay inspired.